Mississippi. Welcome, Media Men Online. I'm Dan. This is Isaiah.
What up, y'all?
And we're back. Screen Players Podcast. You know the drill by now. We're going to start off with some news. We have a live-action film adaptation of Elden Ring in the works. This is Bandai Namco. That's the owners of the property, of the IP, and they have announced it. Their official website. So
dumb.
I guess. I mean, what is it going to be? A 36-hour movie?
I don't know. It's all dumb. Video game movies, you have to have like a very, very special approach and way to it. So you know what? Here's the thing. It is Alex Garland. I like Alex Garland. But it's still just like this is not a movie, you know, a video game where I think movie adaptation.
Yeah.
You know, there's some, and then I'm not saying either way that there's not a good way to pull a good movie out of Elden Ring, but it's like, this is what we're putting our energy towards.
Right.
Come on.
I don't know. I guess it is an A24 film project, so I guess we'll be happy about that, but I don't know. It's probably not going to be the adventure of the Tarnished. It's probably going to be that maybe Melania's journey. Is that her name, Melania?
I think it's been so long.
Melania, something like that.
Yeah.
But that final boss lady that everyone fell in love with, the one with who's got
her.
Yeah.
Okay.
A naked woman, but I don't know. I guess I'll just reserve judgment at this point. But it seems like it would probably be better served in a TV series, like an 8-episode TV series than a 2-hour movie. But
I don't know. Like, see, Elden Ring and like Dark Souls, I don't think movie adaptations, because the way that they tell their story is so different. Like the best way to explain it is kind of like you look at Breath of the Wild, where the majority of the storytelling in that game is kind of what the story that you kind of make of it through exploring and doing stuff. Like that's why, like, even with Dark Souls, I'd be a little bit more understanding of, because that's a way more linear game. But you look at like Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild, it's like those games, those types of games are all about the exploration and the world building you get through when you get to explore yourself. Yeah. Now, there's cool stories to be told within that universe, but it's about the way that they're told. Yeah. And that's why it's just like, sure, you can make a good movie out of anything. Like if you were to erase Elden Ring, the IP, from everybody's brains, so nobody knows what it is, and you made a movie based off of it. Yeah. I'm not saying you can't make a good movie out of it, but you have to think of like people's expectation going into it. That's why I say, like, am I saying right now, oh, this is going to be a bad movie? No, but I do kind of roll my eyes and just think, why are we doing it? Yeah.
It's just strange because there is a lot of lore, but it's like when you're playing Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, any of those From Software games, all the lore and all the information on the story is hidden in the menus.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say there's a lot of lore. There's not a lot of story.
Right.
That's why I like to say is like you can have really, really deep lore and things that, because like that's why I say the way lore is really important for a big open world like this, because it's more, the story is more so how you get to see how the lore has impacted the places that you go to and like the way that things are, and it's less about a story being told.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it's going to be based on the character that you play. It's going to be a story probably prior, or maybe Melania's descent into the rot queen that she ends up being, but I guess we'll just wait and see, you know, when more stuff comes out. Lilo and Stitch outpaces
I don't know how
Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. So far, Mission Impossible $218 million, $421 million.
Shame on you,
for
people.
Lilo and Stitch,
for what is, by all intents and purposes, another soulless remake of a Disney movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how, like, they tried to fool people into thinking that this was the one, and I was like, how do you guys, it's like that was it the Jesse Pinkman meme where he's like, how do you keep getting away with this?
Yeah.
That's me every time people are like, this is gonna be the one, this is gonna be the one.
100%.
I'm just like, how? Like, you could tell, like, I don't know, I could tell, and maybe it's because I'm just that big of a Lilo and Stitch fan, which I don't know, but I just watched the trailers for this live action movie, and I'm just like, Yeah, this is just a slightly worse version of the original. And it's not even that, like, maybe this movie is a bad movie, but it's like compared to the original. I always say this. What is this one bringing to the table that the other one, or what is being brought to the table with this movie that makes you want to watch it over the original?
Right.
And all the changes they do to the movie
I heard
to make it better, or, to make it different, just make the movie worse.
Now, I've never seen the original, but
You should
I've
watch
heard that the villain is taken out of the live action.
It's complicated. So there is a villain in the movie, Gantu. He's like a big shark guy. And he's a villain in the movie, and you could say kind of like he ends up being like the main antagonist at the end.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really have a presence throughout the movie. And the villain, like, when it comes to a villain for the movie, it's more so just the idea of the villain of the movie is tragedy, I guess you could say, because it's all about just like terrible things are happening to people and them having to deal with it.
It's just like an alien or something. Is that what the character is?
So, but then he comes in at the end of the movie and is like, okay, I have to take the experiment back to, the Galactic Federation because it's it's an abomination and it's made out of pure evil. We have to get rid of this thing. But yeah, no, I've more so put that in there though, because when I was looking at it, the Mission Impossible had the best, I think, opening record for any Mission Impossible movie, which was pretty cool.
One thing, shout out to Disney for a change. Only $100 million production budget. Usually it'd be $400 million. Maybe they're starting to wise up. Let's see. This one has to be a lot because they did a bunch of reshooting and everything.
A little too much.
$400 million. My God.
So
we'll get into this when we do a review, but I think that the separation of the two movies and changing it from Dead Reckoning Part 1 to Dead Reckoning benefited this movie, but I think it was a bit harmful to the sequel.
Yeah.
Because they went back and they did a lot of they did some re-explaining. I want to say this as well. My wife watched all 8 of those movies within the last week and a half, and she says that Dead Reckoning, Final Reckoning, is her second favorite.
Oh, really?
It is my 4th. Yeah. I was trying to tell her. She goes, "Oh, it's your 4th?" I'm like, they have 5 out of 5 movies. Like, what do you want from me? You have to order them somehow.
We should be coming
shout out to
soon.
Noisy Pixel, by the way. This is a lesser known gaming website, and they're great. They have all these little. Just want to give them some credit before I give the news for. They have a bunch of these reviews on games that I never even heard of, and I'll just watch the reviews. They have a YouTube channel with not as many subscribers as they should, similar to us. But it's a nice channel to check them out. They're on YouTube, and I believe this will probably take you to there's the YouTube video. I never heard of this game, but I just wanted to watch the review. Pretty fun. It's kind of horror-ish game. But anyways, we get a release date for Pokemon Legends EA, October 16th. There's also going to be a Pokemon Presents in July, probably to reveal more info. But I just wanted to mention that. There's not much more really we can talk about this, but...
Yeah.
Oh my God, here we go again.
This one makes more sense, at least.
Yes.
So even then, I'd say with the kind of game that this is, it's still like... The point of this game is supposed to be you just like walking from one end of the country to the other, and that's why people joke about it being a walking simulator, but it's like that's the point of the game and kind of part of the message that they have for the game. At least it still has more of a story than.
Do we think anime adaptation though? Is that?
I don't know.
That's kind of weird.
It depends on how they approach it.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing, like you can see, they're working on a live action film of this movie as well.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm just like, it depends. If they go anime route like Cyberpunk Edgerunners did, where it's just a completely different kind of story.
Yeah.
And it's doing its own thing, just set in the same world, I think it could work.
Yeah.
Very well.
Or dark. I think it's got to be dark, doesn't it? Like dreary.
Well, I'm thinking like Psycho. Like if you get the people who made Psycho Pass. make
Oh,
this.
sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm on board. Yeah.
I don't know if they've announced who's going to be working on it.
Just saw this Vampire Hunter D coming to High Dive and Shudder.
Wow.
Interesting.
But yeah, it depends on the studio they get to make it.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be, it's not going to be a high action series.
Right.
There's going to be cool big anime moments that happen, but I don't know. I don't see, unless you completely change it where it's just like, hey, the main character is a samurai or something, where you do something interesting with that aspect to it.
Yeah.
To make it a little bit more action focused. I guess that's the thing, is I'd be interested with this one because I feel like you can do a little bit more, and like anime series is different than movie. That's why it's like, technically I could maybe see an anime series of Elden Ring, because you can have these short little episodes that maybe aren't really connected and you get to see weird interesting stuff happen. I'd be way more interested in an Elden Ring anime show than I would a movie, because they also said live action movie too, right?
Yep.
That's the other thing. There's some stuff that just doesn't work well in live action. And that's why like they announced a while ago that Invincible was getting a live action TV show, and I'm just like, I don't see how that works at all, because it is an animated product through and through. You'd be wasting so much money, and it'd have to look a lot worse if you're not putting all the money in the world to make
and
it
also
look good.
why just watch the animated series?
Yeah, I know. Nothing's come of it since then. You know, they announced it the same time they announced season 1 of the animated show, and nothing's come of it yet. So I'm just like, that's fine with me.
Very, very odd choice, but again, we'll wait and see. But some Game Informer news. Now we're going to talk about the magazine coming back, but on the website, they have the full archive available going all the way back, and I went back and looked at it, and it's the Sonic the Hedgehog is the first issue.
Their first ever issue. It's pretty cool.
I definitely didn't own that one, but I would say probably mid-90s would be the first one I owned.
Yeah.
But they have them all you have to do, I'm pretty sure, just sign up for a free account, and you can go back and literally watch every single.
I mean, just look at history there. It's just pretty crazy.
It's incredible. Let me see if I could just kind of roll through. Where's the magazine there? Oh, once. Okay. But you go through and you just keep, it starts with the most recent one, and then you just keep load more, and it's very interesting to see. And I kind of had this interesting well, I guess I thought it was interesting, but when you pay for advertisement in a magazine, it's forever.
Yeah.
When they pay for advertisements on these websites, by the way, I don't see any advertisements on here. Thank you, Game Informer, for allowing my scrolling to be free of this nonsense.
Yeah, right.
So I'll be trying to pull up websites for the show, and it'll just obliterate you with ads.
It's more like the space on screen is more devoted to ads than it is the thing you actually want.
You have this mini square in the center trying to read that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting. Halo 2, it goes back all the way to 1981. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's really cool because these people do really seem to care more so about just like telling the news than they are, how can I make this politically align with our ideals. And so
do these guys, by the way,
because Polygon's doing so well right now. Not a bunch of them didn't get fired, right? That's not what happened, right? I mean, something crazy that's also happening is Giant Bomb, which was another similar like online, like they didn't have a magazine, but they did like online news reporting. I think a lot of the people have quit from there because the parent company was like, hey, we want you to guys go from R to PG-13 for your like approach to things, and we want you to talk about these things and do this and don't talk about this. And so a couple of the guys were just like, goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But do we have a release date for the
magazine? Not yet, but that's why they said it's coming really soon. And that's why they say like, sign up now, so that way you can get the whenever it releases. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy, thinking like almost a year ago now where they were just like, yeah, Game Informer's being closed down. I remember being so sad, and it's super cool to see them being like, hey, people actually care about this stuff still, and they're hopefully willing to support it. Like, I know I'm going to be there. I'm going to be getting those magazines because I want to support physical media because, I mean, it's super cool that we have this digital library, but if they weren't able to come back like this, those magazines gone from history. All the articles gone, because you have to remember they did post all the articles from their magazines on the website as well, and the website got taken down. You couldn't access that stuff anymore.
So weird.
Which is crazy, because I still think, like, how did I discover them? Oh, they did a playthrough of the original Zelda game. I remember that was so interesting to me. Like, oh, seeing these people just sit down and talk about this game, and it's people who have been in the industry and have this very unique perspective.
I do enjoy the gaming. The gaming history is starting to be a little more protected. Before, it was just seen as this goofy, like, niche thing. But now it's starting to be protected as, like, okay, this is something that's important to a lot of people. So I do enjoy that, and it's considered art. And we'll talk about a game shortly that I've talked about a couple times before, but I've really dove into Clair Obscur Expedition 33. That game is a masterful piece of art, and I will do my best to be spoiler free, but I'm going to talk about my progress so far. And then the last thing, also from Game Informer.
Okay, this is a little worrying for me. The article is funny because it's saying, like, oh, the Persona 4 remake was kind of confirmed by one of the voice actors from the original game.
Yeah.
That's not what I really cared about or was paying attention to. It was what he said. And he's, like, reading the quote there. And for those asking, no, I will not be returning as Yosuke for the Persona 4 remake. I asked, maybe even I begged, but they don't want me to come back. Which is just like, why didn't I play Persona 3 Reload? They got rid of the cast. Now, I understood maybe with that one, it's a much older cast, and one or two of the voice actors have been slightly controversial, so maybe they didn't want to get them back, which is why they just recast everybody.
Yeah.
But I mean, the voice cast for Persona 4, maybe people felt this way for Persona 3, for whose game it was their first for Persona, but this was my first Persona 4 game, and I'm super tied to the voice cast for this game especially. Like, when I think of these characters, I think of their voices. That was true for 3 as well, but it's even more so for this one. Like, you have Yuri Lowenthal as Yosuke, you have Laura Bailey as Rise, you have Troy Baker as Kanji, I don't know the names of the other... Oh, you have Sam Riegel as Teddy, Aaron Fitzgerald as Chie. It's like I don't know all the other names for the voice actors, but no, the fact that I know that many of them like that just shows you, like,
off the top
how tied like those actors are to those voices. I mean, it'd be the same thing with Yukiko. I'm sorry, I don't know the voice actress's name, but, like, that's her voice to me. Same thing with Naoto. And them recasting every single person is just like, I don't know. And somebody made an example of, like, well, you know how we felt when they recast everybody for Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I was like, that's not entirely the case, because the original game that people fell in love with didn't have voices.
Right.
Now, yes, they did have a voice cast that they mainly use with, like, Advent Children and Kingdom Hearts. Even though they did change a little bit, because I think they had, like, celebrity voice casting for the first Kingdom Hearts game for Aerith and Sephiroth, and then they changed them for 2 on. But it's like, okay, yeah, sure, you could see that, but I don't know. Persona 4 launched with voices. Those were the voices of the characters. The only one that they changed between the original Persona 4 and all the other Persona 4 media was the voice for Chie. But I'd say, like, people, I think, like her new voice more because it sounds more unique. Right. Not that the other voice actress did a bad job, by the way. But I don't know. The fact that they want to, like you were saying, I want to do this voice still.
That's a little strange. And
they're just looking to get completely new voice casting. I think they're taking the wrong idea from Final Fantasy Remake. Because Remake was supposed to be a new, different thing. And I think by using a different voice cast, they were able to say, hey, this isn't just Final Fantasy VII again. This is something different.
Yeah.
And I don't know, with this cast here, it just seems not great to me, because even though the main character doesn't talk a lot, he's voiced by Johnny Young Bosch, who's, like, the Black Power Ranger. He's the main character of Code Geass, all that stuff. He's, very, very classic voice. And in fact, Johnny Young Bosch also voices a secondary character in the game, probably more memorable because you hear his voice a lot, but Adachi, like the police assistant, who's like this bumbling fool, and he's super fun. I don't know, it's gonna be so weird. That's what convinced me not to play Persona 3 Reload, was the voice cast in the end. Like, I've heard they have really good gameplay changes, and it's not, once again, not me saying that the new voice cast is bad. It's just, like, when I hear a certain character in my mind, that is the voice I think of. And the fact that they didn't get voices that sound, bar one character in Persona 3 Reload, besides Mitsuru, none of the voice cast sounds like the original person at all. With Mitsuru, like, I couldn't tell that. I was like, I could have sworn it was the same voice actress. They got somebody that actually sounded like her. But the other people, they don't even try, I think, to sound too much like them. But I don't know. This game is very near and dear to my heart. This is what really, like, if Fire Emblem Awakening, like, opened me up to JRPGs, this game is what made me dive in headfirst and absolutely love them. This game single-handedly dropped my GPA a bunch in college because I discovered it and played it during finals, the final 3 weeks of finals week, and I couldn't stop playing it.
Great.
But yeah, that's why I'm very sad to see this, because I don't think I heard anything with Persona 3 that it was like a, like I said, 3 was a unique case because there was 2 voice actors. One of them doesn't really do voice acting anymore, and the other one has kind of been shunned by the voice acting community. So I was like, I can get why maybe they just recast everybody so I don't have to deal with that. But that's not the case with this game, really.
Right.
And I don't know. It's sad to see. And I'm also just kind of like in the mindset of, just make Persona 6 already.
Yeah.
Please. Persona 5 was really big, and you keep on doing more stuff with it, and you got the gacha game coming out in the US for it, which I'll probably end up playing a little bit of. But it's like, just make 6. You know, you killed us with the wait between 4 and 5. And then 5 blew up into such a huge success that you'd think, okay, like, the series is now mainstream. I'd say before Persona 5, it wasn't mainstream. It is now, I feel like. You know, it made it into Smash Brothers.
True.
I really feel like 6 should be the priority right now, but it just seems like they're remaking all the old games. Like 6 or Remake 1. A game that nobody actually talks about or plays because it's a completely different type of game.
Right.
I have a lot of passion for this series, and hey, you know, we're working to like change up and do more content on this channel. Maybe this is something I'll rant or talk about. Maybe this will even be a video idea of, like, you know, I rant about something for 30 minutes. But yeah, it's just it's sad to see.
We can make that a playlist because I got a lot to rant about.
Yeah, I know. There's so much stuff to rant about.
Yeah. Let's
Alrighty, so I watched Final Destination Bloodlines. I had heard good stuff about it from a lot of reviewers, so I was like, you know what? I might check this out. And
reviewers, by the way, are pissing me off lately.
I was tricked.
Unbelievable.
By this movie.
Yep.
I thought, okay, this is really cool. The way they're approaching this movie is the person that's having the visions is kind of like the audience member where, oh, they see all these things and they're able to pick out, like, oh, this is what death is going to do to try to kill the person and go about it. Because I think my favorite, like, I really enjoyed the movie during that scene where she does it. Slight spoilers for this movie where she says, oh, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. Like, no, it won't. And then it happens that way. Right. And that was pretty good. That is the only part of the movie where she ever does anything like that. And I was like, why wasn't that the heart of the movie? Like, this idea of this person has been spent years and years and years and years figuring out how death works. And then, you know, using that information to try to fight death consistently throughout the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know why that wasn't the plot of the movie. I mean, here's the thing. I still had a fun time with this movie. I really do like the whole, like, as much as these movies have become mainstream, I still think nobody does it quite like Final Destination with the whole, like, Rube Goldberg machine type setup for kills and how crazy it can be. Because I'll say this, a lot of the ways that the deaths happen in this movie, I didn't see coming, and it was very entertaining to see how they would play out.
Yeah.
It's just, it felt very standard.
Yeah.
It didn't feel special. I did really like the scene with Tony Todd, and I do think it's, especially knowing the story behind, like, his final words, where that wasn't scripted or anything. They just said, hey, what do you want your final goodbye to be? Because he kind of knew this is probably gonna be my last movie I ever make. I really like the message that he leaves people with, you know, the idea of, you know, everybody's gonna die someday. Not to get too much into it, but he's basically like, you know, everybody's gonna die someday, and it's all about living in the, like, you know, it's all about living with the time that you have left instead of worrying about when am I going to die, when I'm going to die.
Who knows how much time you have left.
Yeah. That's why I thought it was a great final message from him, but it's more so just like a really good little moment in the movie that overall was just okay.
One thing that I did not care about in this movie. So I like the opening scene to an extent up in the fake Seattle Tower there.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't care about any of these characters.
Oh yeah.
Like they didn't matter to me.
That's the problem with all these movies. Is
in the first one you care about the main guy and the main gal, but other than that, it's like whatever.
And I once again, I think it did some clever stuff, like with the guy with like you've seen in the trailers, like the guy with the tattoos and the nose ring and stuff.
Yeah,
I thought that what they did with his character was kind of clever and interesting. But yeah, no, I felt like there was a lot more they could have done with this movie, and the way that people were talking about this movie made me think, oh, this is what the movie does, but it didn't, and it just had me thinking, I wish the movie actually did what people were talking about.
Yeah.
And we're praising it for. Because I even think, by the way, I don't know why they haven't done this yet, but a Final Destination movie where you don't get to see the premonition, and it's from the perspective of somebody who just like they saved, like let's say they saved a bunch of people's lives, but then they grew super nihilistic and don't care anymore. So it's more about a mystery instead of just because how these movies always go down is, all right, what order is everybody going to die in? So it kind of takes the mystery away from it. Then I feel like, whereas if you have somebody who's nihilistic, can see that people are going to die, but tries not to do it, and it's more of like a antagonistic role there, and you never get to, I'd say until the end of the movie, you don't get to see what the big thing was that happened that got prevented. That could be interesting because maybe they have to maybe part of the movie is figuring out like, okay, if this person hadn't stopped us, what tragedy might have happened.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like and that's just me throwing something out there. Maybe that's dumb and it wouldn't lead to a good movie. But I don't know. I feel like that's at least something different, new, and fresh. And I feel like that's what this franchise really needs.
Yeah.
And as much as it is still entertaining to watch the kills, at the end of the day, I'm just going to be like I wish I had just watched this movie on streaming instead of, paying money to see it in a theater. I had a fun time with it. In fact, the audience I was with, okay. All right, let me get into this for a little bit. When I sat down to watch this movie for about the first 15, 20 minutes, there was people in the theater just talking, wasn't watching the movie. The second the first gruesome kill happens, they freaked out and walked out of the movie theater, and I was like, thank God.
Oh. Walked out?
Yep, they left the movie theater
and the damn movie was about?
I don't know, but I didn't know. Maybe they didn't know how gross it was going to be, but as soon as like that I think where without saying who it is, but that beam goes through their mouth and you get to see like the blood and guts and everything. Yeah. The woman who was sitting 2 chairs from me was like some old woman, and she like every time a gruesome kill would happen, she goes, I can't do this. That's too much. And they're coming, oh, come on, Grandma, you can keep watching this movie. She stayed for the whole movie, so props to her. You can tell she hated every second of it. She was there for her grandkids or something.
Why
but I mean, like,
but
I mean, like, just in those moments, it's funny because it was funny watching the audience reaction to some of the deaths. But the people that were behind me for the first 15 minutes of the movie were just yapping, not talking about the movie itself, just talking. I'd put my headphones in to try to drown out some of their noise. It was so ridiculous.
We went to see. I took my wife to see Mission Impossible the second time, and the theater next to us was so loud. We were sitting to the right. You could hear the theater next to us.
What movie?
I couldn't tell what it was, but she goes, do you hear that? Like, yep. Yeah.
Was it the movie itself or the people in the movie theater?
The movie through the wall, you could hear the movie.
But yeah, that's why I said like, this movie was probably like, I don't know, 3.4 is being a little gracious. I'd give it maybe a 6 out of 10.
Yeah. You were a little nicer to it than I was.
Yeah, like I said, I still had fun with some of the aspects of it, but I don't know. I guess I kind of got hyped up on this movie thinking I was going to go into it watching a 7.5, 8 out of 10 movie. And I was like, that's not the movie I got at all.
The reviewers kind of did that, and I got a beef with some of these guys.
Because they were talking about like the messaging of the movie of like generational trauma, and I was like, that just felt like set dressing. It doesn't feel like they really dived into that much. Like that would have been way more interesting if they did dive into that more. But I felt like the monkey had like dived way more into generational trauma type stuff than this movie ever did. Like if you want to watch a movie that talks about that kind of stuff, I'd recommend The Monkey over this movie if that's the message you're looking for, or an even better movie about generational trauma. It's been such a while, but I think it's called Relic or something like that. But it's about like a grandmother, a mother, and her daughter going to a building because the grandmother's dying slowly, and it's about like Yeah, that one right there, 2020. I think that's it right there. But it's just really, really all about generational trauma and kind of like.
Was it good?
Yeah, I mean it's good. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10, an 8 out of 10, somewhere around that line. It's I'm not saying it's like it's amazing or the best movie ever, but I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, it's all about that type of stuff.
Yeah, I was so bored watching Final Destination Blood. I didn't care about anyone.
Yeah,
so
I know, like the end of the movie, like they didn't. I don't know. Maybe we'll do on a full review, or we'll mention it in the quick little thing we'll do about it. But I just felt like it had a lot of potential, and even though I still had fun with it, I'm thinking throughout the movie, I feel like they could be doing so much more with this movie, especially for like a return to the series after so long.
Yeah.
Like at least Scream 5 did something different and new and, actually gave itself a reason for existing. This movie just felt like it could have released
I thought it was
2
called
years.
Scream.
No. We all know. Everybody calls it Scream 5. Even the people who made it call it Scream 5 now.
Stupid.
But this movie, like Final Destination Bloodlines, feels like it could have came out a year or two after Final Destination 5.
Right.
It doesn't feel like a modern day looking at this old formula.
Right. I've had a little bit of time off recently, and I'm really diving into this game. So initially when we've talked about it on several occasions, mostly to praise it for the sales and certain things like that. The composer going from a complete unknown to the biggest game of the year. And for my account, the best game of the year. So my first discussion about it was from a very basic perspective. But now that I've gotten into the mechanics and like how the builds work, and you meet different characters. So initially you start off as Gustav, and as you go along in typical, I get it's not a JRPG, but it's a JRPG fashion. You meet up with characters from your expedition and previous expeditions. It's not a spoiler. It's what it is. So what's the expedition? Well, that's something that's kind of spoilery, but all the characters who have the 33 brand on them, once the paintress calls your number, you have to go on your quest. Doesn't matter what you're doing, who you are. If you volunteered for it and you get branded with a number, you're out. So disaster strikes. This is right in the beginning, and everyone gets separated. So that's all I'll leave on that part. But as you're going along, you meet these new characters who have all these different fighting styles. And at first it seems very basic and kind of like, why do I even need these more other characters? But as you build out as you like learn how to build and you see how different these characters are, this lady with the scythe is so awesome. It's by far my favorite character to use because of how her character style works.
So her character is all about how she's a badass woman, right? It's all about how she's a woman, and women are strong, right?
Yeah. And there is a huge spoiler at the end of, I didn't even know the game was broken up into acts, but at the end of Act 1, there's a spoiler. There's something that happens that surprised me so much. Like, I had been playing the game for like 5 hours at this point. Literally had nothing to do. Once this thing happens, I put down the controller and I had to turn off the game for a while because it was a moment that kind of needed reflection. It was to the point where like I wanted to keep playing because I was on a roll, and it just, the story's written so well, and you care about the characters and you care about the journey, that you have to I had to sit back. One thing I'll say about the combat is it's turn-based battle system, but it's so much more engaging than your typical turn-based, even in terms of when you think about like the Trails of Cold Steel, like that series, that's a little more engaging than typical Final Fantasy fashion, where it's just your turn, your next character's turn, the enemy's turn. There are so many different things going on. You can dodge, similar to Dark Souls, parry, and then they have this special version of parry which is like I can't remember what it's called now, but it's like an additional strength version of the parry. The thing that annoys me a bit is the timing. A lot of these ones are if you're fighting something and it attacks you, a little bar at the top of the screen will say X character spins or X character swings, and you know what the attack sequence is going to be based on what the banner says. So once you know the enemies, you're much better at the game. But your first interaction with the enemy, it's extremely difficult because of how it'll be a quick attack, a delayed attack, and it's all in one sequence. And it's so hard for your brain to keep shifting between. It's very similar to Dark Souls in that sense. The Dark Souls combat, if you've ever faced in Dark Souls 3, the guy with the double swords, how everything is staggered and just the timing is so weird. That's how this game is from start to finish. So it might be frustrating to some people until you start to know these enemies. And they did me on a Dark Souls thing. I will spoil one thing. It's not anything specific, but I was fighting an enemy. I killed it. I'm like, wow, this was easy. And it had a second stage. I'm like, no. And the second stage was 5 times harder. So thoughts, I guess, on that. But it is such a good game. I love this game.
I love the cast as well, or the voice cast that I've seen. I mean, Ben Starr and wow, her name just left my head, but she's the voice actress for Cassandra, right there on the left. Voice actress.
She's the voice
Jennifer
actress
English.
For who in this game? I'm just
Jennifer English, right there. Mael.
Oh, so Mael is Gustav's.
Charlie Cox. That's Daredevil. He's in this game? Wait, what?
You could have given me 1,000 guesses. It doesn't sound like him.
That's crazy.
So Mael is.
Does he do a good job?
Yes. Mael is the sister of Gustav.
Okay, yeah.
But this lady, Sael's my favorite character so far. She's so much fun to play as. And the voice acting across the board is very good. I've not heard of most of these people, but Rich Keeble as this is another playable character. Not gonna tell you any story bits about that.
Is that the big guy that people have been memeing? Is that the big giant guy that people have been memeing? Where it's like a big monster looking guy or something?
Probably. Okay. I haven't seen any memes about it, but yeah, I didn't realize Charlie Cox was in it, but
that's crazy.
My goodness. Yeah, that's awesome. I love using this character. But anyways, if you haven't played this game or you've kind of been on the fence, it does take a little bit of, like, if you're kind of more of a casual gamer, it's probably not for you. I'm pretty sure there's an easy mode where the combat's a little bit easier. Obviously, like, the world is worth exploring. If there is.
I was about to ask, just for my sake, is the world more like Final Fantasy VII's, where it's like a big open world where you can explore different aspects, but there is a main route for your story, or is it more like Final Fantasy 16, where there are open sections?
Or like 7. So with 7, you have like little towns and stuff.
Yeah,
it's not like that. But when you have 7 as like when you're going through that, what the hell is the building called? The Shinra building. The places you go are more action based than, oh, I'm going to go to this little town and visit my mom or whatever. Cloud.
I meant more for like exploration based, because like 16.
There is an open world.
You have a big open space.
There's a hoodie. I'm getting the hoodie. Wait, IGN.
Gonna get the one with Shell on it? Maybe.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, there she is, right? Yeah. Oh, I'm getting this damn hoodie.
You gonna give IGN money?
I'm gonna have $65.
Yeah, but it's from IGN. What do you think? They have to make up their money somewhere. They don't get any people reading their articles at all.
There she is. Maybe I'll get the t-shirt instead. There was a point I ran around this mother flipping area for like an hour the other day because I couldn't figure out where to go. It was very irritating, but I ended up finding there was like this path that's not very visible, but I end up going through it. But please support small creators. But not only that, this game's awesome.
So, because of Final Fantasy Magic stuff coming out, I've been trying to play a little bit more of Endwalker since, I'll just say, they showed off a card that had I heard the name of it and I didn't really get to see the picture of it, because that's really more so what the spoiler is for, is like, oh, there's this character that I haven't seen yet in the game, and I didn't want to see them or know what they were about or what abilities and stuff they would have. So I avoided looking at the card, but I know when the set comes out, I'm going to be opening up packs, looking at the cards. It's going to be a lot harder to avoid stuff like that. So I was like, I want to get as far into Endwalker as I possibly can. And I've got to say, maybe I'll repeat this once Dan gets back, because he had to the bathroom really quick, so I think it'd be an interesting little discussion. But I don't even know if I want to say it, because for anybody who plans on playing this game, let's just say I was super surprised at what I was doing a third into this story quest. I messaged my friend who I play with, and I was like, huh? What is going on? And he goes, yep, now you know how we all felt when this first released back in, you can see, December 2021. I'm so far behind, 3.5 years. But it's getting really, really interesting. And I'm actually really entertained to see where things go from here, because unlike with a lot of the stuff where I was like, okay, I can kind of see where this is all like going to, where it's going to be resolving and ending, I don't anymore. But yeah, I just gotta fill some space in here now. I don't know, it's my journey with this game has been interesting to say the least, but very fun. Every time I come back, I have fun playing it. But yeah, now that you're back here, I just wanted to say the one thing that's interesting about this expansion is they kind of, I don't even mind saying it, actually. I was like, do I say it or not? They make you think from the build up that, okay, this game's been out for or this expansion for 4 years, and doesn't really spoil too much really about it, but they make you think, okay, this is all leading up to facing this certain character, and it's going to happen on the moon. And so I'm like, okay, that's where we're all leading up to. And then that stuff starts happening around level 83 out of 90, and I'm like, huh? What's going on here? I feel like I'm in the end game, and it's happening now. And so I think it's so cool, because I'm just like, where the heck is it going to go from here now? Because all the expectations I had for this have already kind of happened, and now I'm like, I actually don't know where it's going, and this is really interesting. But I'm excited to talk more about it and see where it in fact did go. Final Fantasy, just as a brand in general, like with their mainline series, like every game can be considered to be very, very good for doing something completely different. Yeah. And I gotta say, this Endwalker story is just like a masterclass in, I mean, Final Fantasy in general for 14 has been a masterclass in writing these past few expansions. But I am very excited to see where this all goes and what it's all leading to, and all the hype that I've been hearing about it.
Okay. Real quick one. Slice of life anime I started watching the other day. Akihine, Too Many Losing Heroines. It's not a superhero show. Too Many Losing Heroines is in reference to the girls who are dumped. It's a phrase used to describe a girl who is dumped, a losing heroine. So it's basically it's a very wholesome, there's not any fan service or anything, but the main guy is basically just trying to help these girls through getting dumped, basically. And it's on Crunchyroll right now. The voice acted, there's a dub, of course. I wouldn't watch it if there wasn't. The voice acting is very good. The main gal, it's only going to show the...
Yeah, you usually have to go to like behind the voice actors to see the English voice actors as well.
Anyways, it's one thing that I'm trying to compare it to something, but there's nothing really I can compare it to. It is a harem anime, but not in the sense that all these girls are swooning over one guy. it's the exact opposite, in fact. I think eventually he'll end up with the blue-haired gal, whose name is escaping me because I suck at these names. But Yanami. I think that's kind of where they're going with it, but he's also helping these other girls. Here he is in the background here. He's helping the two other girls to get... And the way that they pitch it in the beginning is that he's trying to help them get back with the guy that dumped them or rejected them, but it eventually rolls into, well, he's trying to help them get over it. Really, it's very nice. It's a slice of life, very kind of
got 86% score though. It's pretty good.
It's good. It's very good, but it's not anything where I'm like, oh, you have to go out and watch this.
Yeah, you know what? That's perfectly sums up like I was trying to figure out how I wanted to describe when I was talking about Blue Box the last time we talked about it, but that's exactly it. Where it's just like,
yeah,
you know, it's just that kind of like feel good. It's not like you have to watch this.
Feel good's a great way to describe this one, and a lot of the ways the episodes have ended. I think I've watched 5 so far. It's a really nice, and I watch a lot of horror movies, especially crappy ones, and a lot of these, like some of the things I watch on YouTube are really like dark, and it's a very nice change up to the usual nonsense. It makes it's just a feel good. So if you're in the mood for that, you can't go wrong. 86% is very telling, but it's fun. It's on Crunchyroll. I don't think it's multi-streaming on anything else, but yeah, go on and watch it if you get a chance.
Alrighty, so I have watched, I think, a good half of Daredevil Born Again.
I can't believe Charlie Cox is that.
Yeah. I forget if there's... Scroll down a little bit. Is it 7 or 9 episodes for this season? 9. Okay, so I've watched 4 episodes, I believe. Just under half. And it's so funny. You can't unhear it now, can you? But, I don't know. Here's what I'll say about Daredevil Born Again. I'm not going to do like a full-on review. I'm just going to talk like very early thoughts on it. It definitely doesn't feel like the same show as a Netflix show. That's not always a bad thing. I think there are times where like you could... Here's the important thing for me. You can definitely tell that the writing is not as tight, interesting. I don't know exactly how to put it, but like the conversations that they have about specific things isn't nearly as interesting all the time when they're talking about stuff. It's really hard to really say what I mean by that. I don't just mean like the overall topic conversations. I just mean like the, kind of like the meta narratives that they're having about stuff and trying to tell.
I thought Foggy and Karen were supposed to be in all these episodes.
So okay, I'll give you a little bit of background on this show. This show was originally made, and Foggy and Karen and all of them were not in this show at all. Then they went back and they refilmed a whole bunch of it and kind of added their characters back in, but you can tell like it's, they had to add it in on top. They couldn't really affect the main story too much.
Right.
Now I know that's changing for season 2. But I will say this show has some moments, more often than not, that remind me of the original that are really good. I think the opening to this show is very good. It's a very good opening to a TV show. Really hooks you right in and kind of gets you into the story. There are some conversations that happen later on. I think the court scene that we get in episodes 3 and 4, or 2 and 3, I think, one of that, is like the best court scene we've seen in a Daredevil show. Like, I think it's on par with the Punisher stuff from, like, the Punisher court scene stuff from season 2, if not slightly better. Okay. I really like what they do with that and how it kind of challenges Matt Murdock as a lawyer. What he has to be doing with that. It's really hard to talk about this show without getting into like some basic spoilers. And this is like first 10 minute stuff. So I'm just going to say that if you don't want to know it, don't, cut out for a little bit. But besides the opening to this TV show in the first 4 episodes, he's not Daredevil anymore. It's part of the thing. It makes sense. And I like why they're doing it, because you have to remember, this is an adaptation of Born Again. Which
is it, like, actually though?
An adaptation. they're going for the same ideas and feelings, because you have to remember that season 3 of Daredevil, the Netflix one, was also an adaptation of this, whereas that one just kind of took some of the story elements but not a lot of the thematic elements. This one takes the thematic elements of Born Again and applies it to the character. So kind of like the stuff that Matt Murdock is going through in Born Again, the comic stuff, is what he's going through in this.
Right.
I think the stuff they do with Fisk is really good. They make him, they're trying to fix him from what they kind of, the little bit of character ruining they did in Echo and Hawkeye, where he just became kind of like a jokey version of the Kingpin.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the reason why we really liked Kingpin is he was a more grounded, realistic version of that character from the comics. Whereas like in Hawkeye and Echo, they tried to make him more comic accurate, but it kind of ruined the character that they had made in Daredevil. They kind of bring him back to that so far.
Yeah.
There is a conversation between Matt Murdock and a different character that I won't spoil that happens at the end of season 4 that is fantastic. And I was like, this is the right, like this felt like it came from the Netflix Daredevil TV show. Like that I was like, there's moments like that where I feel like, okay, very good conversations that these characters are having that feels very real and really dives into these characters, you know, themselves. And that's why it's like, I like the show. There are just some parts of it that feel different and not completely there that are noticeable. So is it like what I would say with and here's what I say as well. I'm liking it better than I did the second half of season 2 of Daredevil. Like all the Elektra stuff I thought was not that great in Daredevil season 2. And I think that this is better than that, but it's not, I'd say it's still not on the same level as Daredevil season 1, the first half of 2, and season 3. And by the way, that's, you know, that's not saying like, oh, it's bad, because remember, like those, I think those are like 8 9 out of 10. That's right. Once again, maybe it will change because I've only watched the first half, but I'd say it's sitting around like a 7 or 8 out of 10 right now for me for the first 4 episodes, for let's say first half of the season review. Whereas like I'd say, you know, Daredevil season 1 would probably be like a 9 out of 10. First half of season 2 would be a 10 out of 10, I think. And then season 3 would be like another 9 out of 10. Something like that. Whereas like I think those seasons of television are super good. So this has the potential to be there. Now, from what I've heard, this inconsistency that I've been talking about is a thing throughout the entire show. And I'm going to hope that it's just because of the, like I said earlier, the writing issues they had with it, where it had to be rewritten multiple times and they changed a lot.
Okay.
I'm hoping that all the changes and fixes are the good parts of the show. And that means going into season 2, that is going to be what the show is mainly about. I'll talk about it once I finish it. But I would say if you do like the original Daredevil, this is worth watching. Still very good performances. Charlie Cox is still, like, he is Matt Murdock. Like, for me, like, he's maybe not on the exact same level as like Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, where I'm just like, yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. He's like just below that, where it's just like, yeah, he's Matt Murdock. I could maybe see somebody else being it, but like when I think of Daredevil, I think of Charlie Cox's version right now. That's just how good he is. Affleck. Yeah, yeah. Vincent D'Onofrio, by the way, is super good as Fisk. Like, he's still probably the best acted character in the show. I think what they're doing with him is very interesting, especially what they kind of showed off of his character in season 4. I think is super clever, and like I'm very interested to see what they do with this character. I just need to see where the rest of the show goes. They have a very good start, some not so good stuff, some really, really good stuff, some great action sequences. I'm hoping that they at least can kind of stick the landing. If maybe they're not going to perfectly nail it or be the best that I've seen, but like if you can stick this landing at the end of the show, I'm interested to see what you do with season 2. But yeah.
Okay. So I watched AEW AEW Double or Nothing this past week, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. There's a clip going around on X where so they have every Double or Nothing starting with I think 2023 or 2022, can't remember now, but they've had a match called Anarchy in the Arena. The 5-on-5 or 6-on-6. This time they had 2 gals in there, where the whole arena is the playground. And starting with the first one, they had the music from the good guys playing throughout like the first 5 or 10 minutes of the match, during the match. And people are like, what the hell's going on? Why didn't, usually when they do the entrance, they cut the music off. So now they've kind of made it a tradition. And in this one, Kenny Omega, who is one of the top guys in AEW, he calls for some music after the match had already started. And it's that song, I'm so excited, I just can't hide it. That song. And the people on his side are going, why are you playing this? People are like stabbing each other with forks. Why are you playing the song? And after like a minute or two, he gets back on the microphone. He says, this doesn't really fit the mood. They start playing Let the Bodies Hit the Floor by Drowning Pool, and the whole crowd goes absolutely insane. They play it 3 times through, I think, before they don't play it through the whole match, before one of the guys gets slammed into the speakers, which cuts the music, which is kind of like lore for it. But I wanted to bring that up. I highly recommend anyone to go watch AEW Wednesday at 8 p.m., Saturday at 8 p.m. Archives on Max.
But AEW isn't as popular as WWE.
Yeah. So I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched WWE in a long time. Okay. And if AEW ever ceases to exist, I will never again, I'll be done watching wrestling. I will never watch WWE again. This is what they keep doing to AEW. WWE has a lot of money. They got 90 million subscribers on YouTube to AEW's 5. WWE's been around since 1954. AEW's been around since 2019. So whenever AEW schedules a pay-per-view, which they have to do further in advance because they have less money, WWE goes through and they schedule a pay-per-view across from it to screw them over. Simply the only reason.
Yeah.
WWE's pay-per-views, well, they call them PLEs, premium live events, because they're on Netflix and they're on Peacock and whatever. So technically you don't have to pay for them at all, which is the only reason I could see anyone watching NXT over AEW.
I was going to say, can't you do that with AEW on HBO now?
Not for the pay-per-views.
Not for the pay-per-views, okay.
The weekly shows, and there are some special events like Battle of the Belts or Beach Break, things like that, where those will be on there. I did hear that some of the old pay-per-views from, when it first started will be up on Max soon, so you can watch some of that old stuff. But AEW has a pay-per-view in Texas called All In. And what does WWE do? They schedule not 1, but 2 shows the same day. The same company with 2 shows. Saturday night's main event, not quite sure what this is, but it's a show they scheduled the same day. And the other one, let me see. Oh, 3. WWE has 3 shows over the same weekend of AEW's biggest show. WWE is bringing NXT's Great American Bash, Saturday night's main event, and Evolution to Atlanta, Georgia on July 12th. This is how pathetic. WWE out of one side of their faces says that they're not competition. AEW is not competition. They're not on our radar. And they constantly do this. They're a pathetic company. It would be like if the NFL went to the UFL plays during like April through July, I think, something like that. It would be like if the NFL said, we don't want the UFL to exist, so we're going to schedule our weeks to block them.
It's like we're moving Monday Night Football game to their nights that they do their big games.
Yeah. It's honestly pathetic. It's disgusting to watch, and the people on X are most of them are
goofing on
just yeah, the sane people are goofing on it, and then the WWE sheep are they're completely brain dead, acting like it's coincidence. This happens every single time.
It's like, how many times does it have to happen in a row for it to no longer be a coincidence?
Yeah. Oh, there
for
it
the
was.
WWE, 500,000 times. Then it's
Yeah.
not a coincidence.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting to watch, like, as it's all happening, because AEW, they had this incident with CM Punk, who's like this popular guy. He wrestled up until 2013. WWE fired him. He tried UFC. He tried movies. None of that worked. He got his ass beat by some dude named Michael Jackson in UFC. And then after all this time, 2021, AEW signed him. And it was this huge explosion of popularity because he's, for whatever reason, he's still a popular guy. He caused nothing but trouble while he was there, and AEW fired him. AEW's popularity dipped after that because all the CM Punk marks stopped watching. But they're starting to gain all that back. I think he was fired in 2023, and it did take a dip in popularity, but it's starting to build back up now. So every single pay-per-view, well, the majority of them are bangers. They're absolutely fantastic, including this one. That I'm going to show you that clip of the bodies hit the floor. It's so cool. It turns from a wrestling match into a concert where people are fist fighting in the crowd. It's insane. But I love it. I absolutely am going to. There's one in Toronto in September, which I'm going to go to, called All Out. I'm sure WWE will schedule 17 pay-per-views that weekend. But oh wow, I thought this was playing the whole time.
That's weird.
But yeah, if you get a chance, if you have any interest in wrestling whatsoever, and feel free to hit me up. I'll guide you through where you need to start. But check that out. Wednesdays at 8, Saturdays at 8.
All right. So this YouTube channel, The Gamer from Mars, I probably watched a couple of his videos like 6, 7, maybe 10 years ago. He did some informational stuff on some things, but I didn't really I didn't watch him too much. It was just he had some interesting video topics. But I saw this video pop up, and I was like, I know this YouTuber, and I used to watch a lot of Rick and Morty. I think I've watched 5 of the 6 seasons. And I was like, this would be an interesting video to look at, because I've gone through kind of what the video is talking about, you know, how Rick and Morty became irrelevant, but I'm interested to see like if he talks about some of the behind the scenes stuff, about like what's going on. Yeah, don't you just love YouTube ads? And it is very interesting because he talks about like how the show got created, some of the background stuff I didn't know, and then going through the show as a whole, people's responses to it as it went, and then kind of all the things that happened that started to make the show, not just how it started to dip in quality, but maybe why it started to dip in quality. And I think if you ever were a huge fan of Mick and Morty, Rick and Morty, there's my dyslexia coming through on my speech.
A spin-off.
Mick and Morty. And you found yourself not liking the show really that much anymore, I highly recommend this video. Yes, it's 2 hours and 17 minutes, but yes, it's a very in-depth, thorough, and good look at the show from where it started conception-wise to where it is now, and a little bit behind the scenes with the creators and kind of what their deal was and what's happened with them since, including the whole drama that went down with Justin Roiland. But yeah, I don't know. I was really into this show. Not as much. I was more like a normal viewer of it, because he goes into like the fanatics. And it's actually funny because I don't know if you've seen that clip of like the McDonald's, the person who wants the Szechuan sauce, and he like jumps up on the counter and starts screaming, "I'm Pickle Rick," and then jumps off and starts. So people were sharing that around as like, this is how crazy the Rick and Morty fans are. Well, it turns out, and what I learned from this video is he's not actually that big of a fan of Rick and Morty. He's just a YouTuber who didn't really know what the show was, but he wanted to get a funny clip. So he did that. But people took that as, this is what the fan base is like. Look how stupid and weird these people are. I mean, like, there were people that were that stupid and weird, because you look at that whole situation that went down with like the Szechuan sauce.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is kind of crazy how this, you know, this show had the cultural zeitgeist by like, what to say, but I don't know if we could say this
by
on
the
YouTube.
Stones.
Yeah, that right there. And how it's able to become like, nobody talks about the show really that much anymore. It's just become another thing. Like, and I think he talks about this really well, where it's like, you know, I think he says like the 90s had The Simpsons, 2000s
South Park.
had South Park. Whereas like the 80s had Simpsons, 90s was Family Guy, 2000s was South Park, or flipped for those. Okay, yes, and he said 2010s was Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
And now how it's just become like people don't really care about this show anymore. Like people will still talk about like the Simpsons and Family Guy nowadays, you know. But I feel like this show's dropped off even more so than those have because of, I guess, because of very similar reasons.
Yep.
But yeah, it is sad to see because I did really enjoy what this show used to bring, and now it has just become, you know, a worse version of itself. Let's say, you know, and I think he does show like these problems that the show has did start with like season 2. You could see them starting to creep their way into the show, but it didn't really come to fruition until seasons 4 and 5, really. And like I guess just to talk slightly about what he says in the video, like with season 2, you can see where like their disdain for continuity and serialization starts to really pop up, even though that's what people really enjoyed about the show a little bit, was kind of like how, hey, this thing happens in this episode and it impacts the character in future episodes. They kind of wanted to move away from that, even though that was some of the more interesting stuff about the show. But yeah, I highly recommend watching this video. Even if you don't really watch Rick and Morty, I think it's a very interesting video that goes into just like how something like this can happen to such a popular show. And it is a pretty good video from this guy. Like I said, I haven't watched him in years, but still a pretty good video.
47K. 12 days. I think we're both going to watch Bring Her Back next time we get together.
Yeah.
I'm going to see it tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow morning. Initially, the Movie Tavern had it and Regal didn't, but they just added shows. They have a list of full, I think at least 4 or 5 showings tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd be super surprised if they didn't because of how big Talk to Me was for theaters. Like, love or hate that movie, it was very successful.
Yeah.
So there'd be no reason not to put their next movie in theaters. Which is also crazy to think because I feel like in my brain, I'm like, oh, Talk to Me came out like last year or something. But no, it was like 2-3 years ago.
Was it that long?
I think so. Wasn't it like 2022?
Oh my God.
2021?
No way it was that long ago. I would say 23 at the earliest.
I thought it was 2.
Oh!
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah, I know, right?
Way.
I know, right? It doesn't feel like it was that long ago. But yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But so just to briefly talk about what I think I have talked about before on the show, but I've been watching these directors like the Filippo brothers. They were like YouTubers, and I've been watching their YouTube content for so long, and YouTube and its monetization kind of moved away from the type of stuff that they would do, because they do like extreme stunts, like bloody and gross and stuff like that, but they'd actually do the stunts themselves and everything, which was what was super cool about it. And YouTube really hit them monetization wise to where like they just couldn't make money anymore. So they were looking to do different things, and they said, hey, we've had this idea for a movie, let's direct and make it. And I thought it was super cool that, oh, these YouTubers are making a movie, but we all know how those YouTuber movies usually turn out. They're not that good. And it turns out that this one is actually pretty good. I know I liked it. I didn't think it was like the most amazing thing in the world, but I thought there was a lot of cool stuff to it. It was shot very well, some interesting ideas. So they got a sequel coming out. I'll give it a shot. See if were they just like a one-time, one and done kind of deal, or what I'm hoping for is they're able to take what they learned from this movie and do something even bigger with it.
Actually stunned.
Yeah, I know. Stunned locked that entire time, huh? Oh, yeah, 3 years ago.
I want to go to the mall tomorrow to watch Bring Her Back. I'm going to pick up Venom Original Sin just to kind of break up the not a little bit, grab a comic book, see how they're doing. Venom Original Sin #1 came out yesterday, so give that a crack. And if all else fails, it's a nice looking cover.
So that's interesting because I thought that the most recent development was that Mary Jane became Venom in the comics.
These people can't help themselves. There's 45 different versions of all these comic books. And once I saw Venom Original Sin, I'm like, oh god, who's it gonna be? But
It's actually
apparently
Eddie
it's Eddie Brock, so I'm gonna give it a crack.
I think in the mainline series though, Mary Jane is Venom right now.
And she's like, it looks like when Tony Stark gets out of the Hulkbuster armor, how little she looks inside of the giant. It's so stupid.
But it's also I don't know, they've been screwing up Spider-Man in the comics for a long time now, where it's just like hey, people don't want to see Mary Jane together with Peter Parker, right? Yeah, so let's break up their entire marriage and have her get together with this new guy, Paul. Yeah, that's still a thing in the comics, by the way. Even though people hate it.
I'm tired.
It's just like
so tired.
My friend who's a big Superman fan was just like, yeah, this is if they broke up Superman and Clark Kent and Lois Lane, and just been like,
sure
hey,
they've done that,
they don't actually they don't actually belong together. Marvel's
so
just
stupid. It's chaos. And then this other one I actually have here.
Kill
All Immortals. No, this is
DC.
This is Dark Horse.
I know. I was saying it's people who actually still make good comics.
I'm gonna talk about this one. It looked interesting, the synopsis and all this kind of stuff. So I'm gonna give it a try. Could it be terrible? Yeah, of course. But I pre-ordered this a long time ago. It came last week. But
wow. You saying you pre-ordered a long time ago reminded me that I kickstarted the Keanu Reeves graphic novel Berserker, and I've never read it, even though I have all 3 volumes. Never opened it. I was like, maybe I should actually read those.
It's decent. It's decent. I did the Kickstarter as well.
You did?
And then Invincible, but no, that was just because we looked it up earlier.
Brand new movie sequel, Invincible 2. Marky Mark's back.
Oh, man. Well, I think that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. Please share with a buddy. We will catch you guys later.
Peace. Still want to...